You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May, putting you in the driver's seat to control your finances. Let's start the Practical Wealth Talk about alternatives to Wall Street.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Curtis May, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Practical Wealth Show. So today, guys, I am super excited, and I have America's money answers man, Mr. Jordan Goodman, on the phone with us this morning. Jordan, say hi to the family out there.
Great to be with you, Curtis. I'm glad to help all your followers.
Yes, thank you. So let me give you a little background about Jordan so you know who you're talking to. And it's funny because I heard of him probably because I called him. I said, look, we had met, seen some of his stuff, and had a couple of his books probably about 10, 12 years ago. Jordan he's called America's money answers man. And so he's bringing his answers to us. And so Jordan talks about personal finance, business finance, and more on major media outlets. So, I'm such honored to have him on my little show, right? Soon to be really big show, right? And so media outlets from CNBC to CBS Evening News, from Fox Business to The View. Okay. And so for almost 20 years, Jordan was on the editorial staff of Money Magazine. Then he turned his attention to writing books, more than a dozen books, guys, and to help Americans use their best strategies to come out ahead in this complex financial world. And so today, we're very fortunate that he's sharing his knowledge and expertise with us. Welcome to the Practical Wealth Show, Mr. Jordan Goodman.
Great to be with you, Curtis. You bet.
All right. And so let's talk about, it's I don't even know where to start, but we're going to talk about, we're going to go from a bunch of different topics, but we're going to talk about a little bit about making money. He showed me a great high earning real estate fund. So as you know, we want to talk about, in our show is making money, keeping money, paying yourself first, eliminating debt. But you got to get your money working harder for you, and you got to stop giving it away, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of money sitting around in CDs and money market accounts and savings accounts, pretty much earning zero or, maybe less than 1% these days. Mm-hmm. And the banks are happy. They think you're doing a great job by keeping your money there earning nothing.
Right.
And meanwhile, they're charging you higher and higher interest rates on credit cards and mortgages and student loans and car loans and all that. So the bank's profit margins are widening, but it doesn't mean you have to put up with this. Okay. So I wanted to start the show with a very simple thing the average person can do to earn 8% on their money instead of zero. I hope 8% is better than zero.
8% is definitely better than zero. Come on.
So these are what are called secured real estate funds. And what they do is they lend money short-term, like over a year or so, to commercial real estate projects all over the country. And because these projects have a hard time getting loans from traditional banks, they're willing to pay a bit of a higher interest rate, and they're secured by a first lien position in a specific piece of commercial property. Could be an apartment building, a medical office, assisted living, student housing, a parking lot. I mean, just all kinds of different projects that they have around the country. And it's kind of filling a niche that otherwise these people cannot get their projects funded. So that's from their point of view. And then from your point of view, it's a way of earning a much higher yield than you're ever going to get at the bank these days. And with everything I'm going to talk about today, Curtis, I'm going to give specific websites and phone numbers so people can follow up on these suggestions.
That's awesome. And we'll have those in the show notes. Great.
And the website for this is called Secured, with a D, securedrealestatefunds.com. And they've got a phone number, 888-444-2102. I'm on the board of this thing. I mean, I know this well, and I'm really all in, as you might say, on this thing.
Okay.
And they've got a track record. They started around early 2016, so they've been around about 2.5 years and have actually been paying 8%. So there are risks in real estate, but there are ways to mitigate the risks, which is what they do. First thing, as we mentioned, geographical diversity by different types that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. The maximum they're going to lend on a particular piece of property is 70% of the value of the property, so-called loan to value, maximum 70%. And that means that the borrower always has a lot of skin in the game, at least 30%, if not more, to make sure the project goes well. So anyway, they've got a track record of doing it. It's completely an SEC registered fund. Minimum is $5,000 to get in. After that, that's the minimum you have to get in. And the minimum hold time is 1 year. After that, you can get your money back. And you can take monthly checks, if you like, into your checking account or reinvest it, have the money compound. And now your money's growing at 8% instead of 0 or 1 or something like that. And these are what are called crowdfunding funds, generically. This allows the average individual for $5,000 to get into something that in the past would have been like $100,000 or something like that. So it allows them to have access to something to get a higher yield on their money. It allows the developers to get their projects done. It's a win-win on both sides.
Wow, that is awesome. I've never heard of that. And so here's a follow-up question to that. Can you use IRA money? So let's say you have a self-directed IRA, you could use your IRA funds and put money in that.
It has to be a self-directed IRA custodian. Okay. Now, the place that Secured Real Estate Funds uses is called Folio, Folio, which is a third-party custodial firm, and you open a Folio account, and then you buy the Secured Real Estate Funds in there, either as a non-IRA and an IRA, Roth IRA, traditional IRA. So now, if you have it in an IRA, say you're going to have it there for many years, you reinvest those monthly interest payments, and your money is now compounding at 8% inside an IRA, a Roth IRA tax-free, traditional IRA tax-deferred. So absolutely, this is kind of the alternative to me to bonds and cash. Stocks are going to do what stocks are going to do, but cash you earn almost nothing these days, and bonds you might get 3% or so with volatility. As interest rates rise, you potentially lose principal on bonds, whereas with the secured real estate funds, the price of the shares, the net asset value, stays at $10 a share. So it's not going up, it's not going down. So your principal is not being hurt by rising interest rates with this as it would be in a traditional bond or bond fund.
Yeah, that's a nice, safe short-term play. I love that. Okay, I've got to, I think a bunch of our listeners can benefit from that. So that is awesome.
This is not something you're going to hear about from brokers or banks, because they want you to put you in all these funds that have these high fees, right? Just so you're clear, by the way, there's no commission or anything like that going into it. The way the fund makes money is by the return on the assets. So they may be charging 10%, for example, and then you, the investor, gets an 8%, which is what's called a preferred return, meaning you get it before the management gets anything. And then, so say they charge 10, you get 8, they get 2 when the fund performs. You say, so their incentive is to make sure it all works out, and you get your 8% before they get anything.
So like everybody's on the same page.
Right, exactly. And actually, there's a little extra page as well, which is when the projects that they're lending to sell at a profit, the borrowers share some of that profit with the fund. I think it's 30% of the profit that they would share, and of that, 80% goes to the fund shareholders. So you get a little extra bump as well when the project is completed. So last year, in 2017, the actual return of the fund was 8.7. 8% from the interest, 0.7 from the profit sharing. And over time, as there are more projects that come to fruition, there'll be an extra. So it's another half to 1 point, something like that, on top of the 8%. So I even gave you a little extra there.
Wow. Yes, that is good. So, folks, we're going to do that. I'm going to do that.
Great.
Right. And I always tell people when I do the show, I says, listen, I usually have like 2 pages of notes. So I said, so if you're on the treadmill, you need to listen to it again at your desk and start writing this stuff down. Go to show notes and take action.
I'm all about action. I'm with you.
Yeah, got to take action. So let's talk about, I'm looking at, he sent me a little list. So I'm like, it's so much stuff. I hope we can squeeze this in. Mortgage savings for heroes.
Right. So this is a program that a lot of people are not aware of, where if you're considered an American hero, you can get big savings on your mortgage and buying and selling a home. Now, a hero is defined as military, either current military or veterans, anybody in the medical field, doctors, dentists, anything like that, nurses, educators, teachers, clergy, fire, police, EMTs, just all those kind of people would be considered heroes. So if you are a hero, you get a quarter of a rebate of the real estate agent's commission when you buy a home or when you sell a home. So that's a huge amount of money right there. And then you also get discounts on closing costs and fees like escrow and appraisals and all the things that go, legal costs that go into that. And you get a better mortgage rate as well. So there's a website, people can find out about that, which is heroescomefirst.com. And they've got a phone number too, 888-437-6114. And it's a way of giving back and saying thank you to the people who kind of serve us. The people, when we're rushing out of a fire and the firemen are rushing in, it's nice to say thanks, but this is actually giving them money. So that's even better.
That is even better. So now if they're doing that, so is this what they call if they, let's say they're in the house buying process now, is it something they would use with their current realtor that might
Well, you have to get a realtor who's signed up for the program, and they're all over the country. Mm-hmm. So, could be, but chances are your existing realtor is not signed up for the program, but any realtor can sell any property. Mm-hmm. So you just go to this heroescomefirst.com, and then, where you're located, and they'll have a list of realtors where you are that are participating, that are willing. They're willing to give back a quarter of their real estate commission. Mm-hmm. They get to keep 3/4 of it. They'd rather get a deal than no deal. And the same thing with all the lenders. Everybody's involved with the closing costs. They're getting some business out of it. They're just willing to give some of it back to legitimate American heroes.
So if let's look on the other side of this real quick. If they're, let's say you're listening to the show and there are a realtor, they could go to this and sign up to be a participant.
Absolutely.
Okay. Or a lender.
You'll get business, correct, or a lender. You'll get business that gives you something different than other realtors that are not part of the program. So absolutely, it can help both sides.
Okay. So first responders, listen, here's a way to, save some money and us thank you for, what you do and for your service. So financial advisors aren't heroes. They don't count, right?
No, they don't count, unfortunately. Financial advisors are very important, but they don't tend to run into buildings when they're blowing up or on fire.
You got that right. Okay. So let's talk about, this is interesting. Verifying loan payments.
Yes. So a lot of people have adjustable rate mortgages, mm-hmm. and they don't realize that the payments they've been making have been incorrect. Now, adjustable rate mortgage is going up and going down based on some kind of a index prime rate or LIBOR or something like that. And often they're sold from one mortgage servicing company to another. Mm-hmm. And in many, many cases, there are mistakes being made. So there's a website, verifymymortgage.com. Mm-hmm. They've also got a phone number, 800-888-6781. That'll get your original loan agreement and then your history of payments. And then they compare it to what should have been charged, because they know where the indexes are and what the spread over your index was and how much it went up and down. And something like 40 to 50% of the cases, they find there are errors. When there is an error, they'll create a detailed letter saying, here's the original document, here's what should have been paid, here's what was paid, here's the amount of the refund you, Mr. Bank, are supposed to give back to this person, and the new payment that is now correct. Wow. So it might be like $13,000 or who knows what. They've had $50,000 because in many, many, many cases, these adjustable rate mortgages are adjusted incorrectly in the bank's favor. Okay.
Of course, yes.
And there's no way you, the individual, could figure that out as to what the right amount would be. You have to know all the indexes and go back in history and all that. But there you go. I'm just giving your listeners potentially thousands of dollars by if they had an adjustable rate mortgage that was, had incorrect payments.
Absolutely. Let's go back. Now I missed one, so I'm going to go back up.
Sure.
And to the I know we talked about this. So the mortgage equity optimization from your book, and so I'm going to talk to one of my listeners, David. This is for you. So
okay,
it's an inside joke, but when he listens, he'll know this because I get asked this. How do I do that? So now I got an expert, about the HELOC and that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm not sure how that works, but now I got the expert. So tell them about that one.
So in the book I did called Master Your Debt, Chapter 6 is called Mortgage Free in 5 to 7 years. And I talk about how you can literally pay off a 30-year mortgage in about 5 to 7 years on your existing level of income. You don't need extra income, Curtis. You just need to flow it in a way that's advantageous to you instead of the bank. Okay. And the bank will never tell you about this. Okay?
I'm all about that. Okay. That's right.
Bank is totally happy with the way the current system works like this. You keep your money your paycheck and any income you've got in a checking account sitting there earning zero. And then you have a 30-year mortgage where you make the same payment for 30 years. All the interest is front-end loaded. First 10 to 15 years. After 15 years of paying on a 30-year mortgage, maybe you would have paid off 10% of the principal, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then even worse, if you refinance that loan, and then you start a new 30-year clock all over again. So you just threw away thousands of dollars in interest you paid on that earlier mortgage. Even though your rate and payment may be lower, you're starting a new 30-year clock all over again. Okay, so that's the existing system, which the bank thinks you're doing a great job participating in. Okay, mm-hmm. Now mortgage optimization turns the tables completely and allows you to have the money work for you instead of the bank. So I'm just going to give you a simple example of how it works. You use a home equity line of credit, HELOC, as it's called, mm-hmm. which is a liquid line against your house. You can put money in, you can take it out whenever you like. You can write checks on it and so on. Okay, you keep your income, which normally would be sitting in the checking account, in the HELOC, and it's pushing down your balance every day. HELOCs are based on what's called average daily balance. How much do I owe today? So say you had $1,000, normally sitting in your checking account earning nothing, and you owe $50,000 on your HELOC, and you put $1,000 in, you now owe $49,000 in your HELOC. So you're going to be paying interest on a lower balance, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then all the money keeps going into the HELOC, pushing the balance down. And then once a month, you push your balance goes up when you pay your bills. If you can, combine all your bills into one credit card where you pay it pretty much once a month. And that day, your balance goes up, but the rest of the month, you're making progress on your principal. So every month that goes by, you're making accelerating progress in paying your principal off. And depending on how the numbers work out, it's typically about 5 to 7 years to pay it off. If it would be helpful, Curtis, let me just give you a kind of an oversimplified example of how this might work. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, it would be.
So say you had a house worth $300,000, mm-hmm. and say you had a $200,000 first mortgage at a good rate, 4%, something like that.
Okay.
You would go out, get a HELOC for, say, $50,000. You got plenty of equity in the house, okay? And you would write a check on that HELOC, which you just opened, you haven't used it yet, a check for $50,000 towards the first. So now, instead of $200,000 on the first, you owe $150,000, and you owe $50,000 in the HELOC. Okay, you with me?
Yep.
Now you keep your income moving into that HELOC, and over, say, a year or so, you bring that $50,000 down to zero, right? Because that income's constantly moving in there, pushing the principal down all the time. Mm-hmm. So then a year later, you do it again. You write another $50,000 check on the HELOC towards the first. So instead of owing $150,000, you owe $100,000 on the first. Over the next year, you pay the HELOC off. You do it twice more. So after 4 years, your first is now paid off. And the 5th year, you pay off your HELOC. You are now mortgage free. You see what I mean? It's the same income. You're just moving it in a way where every day you're making progress in the principal and your money's working for you instead of the bank.
Okay. I thought you had to get a HELOC to pay off.
No, you don't have to do that. No, yeah, I mean, the advantage, this is what they call the blended strategy.
Okay.
And the advantage of that is you've locked in a good rate on the first, say 4%. Mm-hmm. HELOC is an adjustable rate mortgage. So, I mean, and interest rates have been rising lately. So you may be paying a slightly higher interest rate on the HELOC, but what's most important is you're paying off the principal much faster. So mm-hmm. then you get the best of both worlds. You've locked in a good rate on the first, but you're using the HELOC to pay it off much faster.
And then when you're done, you still have the HELOC. So you
still have the HELOC. You have access to the equity in your house mm-hmm. at a very cheap rate. That's correct. There's a website, a free website that can actually help you kind of model this in your own situation. And that website is truthinequity.com. And so at that site, you go in and do what's called a personal profile. You put in your income, you put in your expenses, you put in your mortgage, you put in your house value, all those things. And it'll come back and say, based on what you're doing today, it's going to take you 28 years to pay off your mortgage. And based on the numbers you just gave us, you'll pay it off in 6.2 years or whatever it comes out to be. Mm-hmm. And then they show you step by step how to do it. So I have literally just saved your listeners 25 years off their mortgage and tens of thousands of dollars in needless interest. And you'll never hear about that from a bank.
That's right. I always tell people it's good for the bank, it's bad for you.
Exactly.
So just start with that premise. You know, if it's good, you know, if you, let me double down and do biweeklies. That'll
help a little bit. That'll cut 2 or 3 years off your mortgage.
But it's illiquid. So at least with the HELOC, you have liquidity.
Correct.
Access to capital. See, that's the thing that I think that's, and so what happens is it's just different. I'd heard about it, and you just gave me clarity because I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this, and but I think, and I had people ask me about it, so I said, okay, let's go into this, and that was a really good, concise, simple.
That liquidity is a big difference. I mean, if you make extra principal payments on your mortgage, you can't write a check on your mortgage. You can't get that money back out. And it'll cut maybe 2 or 3 years off your mortgage payoff. But you have the money you're putting into that extra money is gone. You don't have access to it. That's correct.
That's what I don't like. And see, because stuff happens. And so if you were unable to work, that equity is now controlled by the bank.
Correct.
Because you don't have access to it. But if you borrow money before you need it, you have access to capital for, And so, okay, I like that.
There are 3 things you need to make this work, Curtis. The first thing you need is equity in your house. Okay, if you're underwater in your house, there's nothing to borrow against. You got to have equity in your house. Second thing, you got to have a decent credit score. I would say like 680 or higher to qualify for the HELOC. And the third thing you need is positive cash flow. More money coming in, going out during the month. That positive cash flow is what's pushing down that balance and will help you pay it off faster. The more positive cash flow you have, the faster you'll pay it off. So and I bet the vast majority of your listeners have those 3 things, and therefore this mortgage optimization strategy would be appropriate for them.
Well, let me ask you this. So one final question on this point. Where would they get the HELOCs from?
All kinds of places. One of the things that Truth and Equity people actually do is help you find the best HELOC wherever you're located.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a local bank. It can be a national bank. It could be a credit union. There's lots of places that offer HELOC, and you want to make sure that they have good interest rates and low fees and good liquidity, and because you're going to link that HELOC to your checking account electronically, and money's going to be. You're still going to get paid, and your paycheck will still go into your checking account. You're just going to then electronically transfer that money into the HELOC. So you just want this to be easy to pull off, and so there's plenty of places. It may be your existing bank that gets you a good HELOC, but may not. Maybe other places that can find you the best deal.
Okay. Let's jump. I want to do the car and the student loans. I think these are areas where I know people are challenged with. So let's talk about refinancing your car loan to lower car payments and how what's going on with that.
So a lot of people have taken on some pretty big car loans the last few years, and it's been a major problem for them because they took on a bigger payment than they can really afford. And so the delinquency rate on car loans has gone up dramatically, like double in the last year or so. Now, what's new in the car loan business is the car loan lenders will put a device in your car that if you don't make your payment, they will disable your car remotely. Yeah. And you're driving along the highway and your car all of a sudden dies. Oh, I forgot to make my car payment. It's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, it's not cool. Yes.
But because of that, they've been willing to make loans, particularly to subprime borrowers who in the past would not have gotten car loans. Okay. So that's why so many people have car loans at some really high interest rates, 15, 16% on a depreciating asset. Okay? So the resource that I want to tell people about is called myloangen.com. And at that site, they can refinance their car loan to a lower interest rate or change the maturity of the loan so that the payment is more affordable. Say you have a $500 a month payment and you have 3 years to go on your car loan. If you switch that out to say 6 years, your payment might go to $250, making it more affordable for you and avoiding having your car turned off when you're driving on the highway somewhere. But you get to control what you want. So you put in at that website, it's a free website, you put in how much you owe on the car, what your monthly payments are, what the interest rate is, and how many more months you have to go on the loan. And then it gives you a little dial that you can move around to choose what payment you want. So you can move it up where you change the maturity or you can change the interest rate. And then you say, okay, this is a payment that I can afford. You hit submit and a whole bunch of credit unions are going to give you offers to refinance your car loan at that price. So it can save you a tremendous amount of money. And the main thing is making your car payment affordable, where a lot of people have car payments that are not really affordable today.
Wow, that is. I'm working with a person right now, and I'm looking at their it's a client I'm working with, and they have their car died, and they rolled the old payment, the old balance, into the new car.
That's terrible, because now you're paying for a car you don't even have anymore.
Right. And her payment is like $564 a month.
Yeah.
And then she's got a rent of $1,600, but gross income of $4,000. So 50% of her money is going to service rent and a car.
Yeah. Well, she could go in there, and depending on her credit, she could get that 564 down to whatever, but she gets to choose.
Right.
And I mean, a way to do that is extending the maturity of the loan to some extent. The new car is going to last a long time. You may cost you more interest in the long run, but it's getting that car payment down to a more affordable level.
Right. So it's about the cash flow and improving your cash flow, so you have some relief, so you can save. So what happens is, what we've done, guys, is stacked up, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Whereas if you can save $50 here, $100 there, $200, then all of that stuff adds up, so that now, hey, you can, save, pay yourself first, attack your debt, and all of a sudden, once the debt is gone, you freed up that new cash flow, and then, hopefully we won't buy stuff, at least on credit cards, you can't pay for in 30 days.
Exactly.
Right? And if you put on a credit card and you can't pay for it in a month, the answer is you can't afford it. All right. And I hate to tell you, I don't want, my sister
calls. But a lot of people
so,
don't do that. Okay. I mean, we have over $1 trillion in credit card debt now, and it's been rising very sharply. It's easy to get credit cards today. The banks are sending out gazillions of mailers out there. And so people take them up on it, and it's easy money until it isn't. Paying it back is a real pain. So let me give you 2 resources to help you there. The first one is to get better credit cards. You don't have to be putting up with these ridiculously high 18 or 25% interest rates. A free website to get the best credit cards is guidetocreditcard.com. And you figure out what's best for you. Maybe you want cash rebates. Maybe you want frequent flyer miles. Depends on your situation. There are those with low interest credit cards as well. No annual fees, 0% balance transfer offers. There's just lots of different possibilities. And you figure out what's best for you. So that's getting your better credit card. And then if you have a lot of credit card debt, which a lot of people do, you go to a nonprofit credit counseling organization that will get you typically 6 to 7% interest rate, something like that. Consolidate all your credit card debt into one payment at the lower interest rate and save you a ton of money and help you get out of debt in a way you probably couldn't on your own. My favorite place there is called Cambridge Credit Counseling. Their website, cambridgecredit.org. Their phone number, 800-897-2200. They've been doing this for about 30 years, and they've already got relationships with Chase and Bank of America and Citibank and so on to get you rates you can't get on your own. If you're paying the minimum on a credit card, it could take you 30 years to pay it off or something like that. It's typically 3 to 4 years to pay off your debt, and it's considered a neutral in your credit score as well, by the way. So those are 2 resources that maybe help people with a lot of credit card debt.
Oh, well, and there's a lot of people with that. Let's jump to student loans. That's a big,
huge problem, Curtis. Huge. We have 1.5 trillion in student loan debt outstanding. Average person is graduating with 39,000 in student loan debt. That's the average. And some people 50,000, 100,000. Just incredible numbers undergraduate. And then if you go to graduate school, law school, business school, medical school, dental school, 200, 300, 400,000 on top of that before you get your first job. It's just crazy what people do.
That is, I mean, because I was just showing somebody, I said, that kind of debt, basically what you're doing is they're using your future earnings as collateral.
Correct. And you have future earnings. I mean, a lot of people are graduating with that debt and don't have future earnings. They have I saw a recent number, 27% of the people 3 years later are in a field related to their major, meaning 75% are not.
Not, right.
And so they're not getting the payoff for their education in higher salaries and something that they're trained in.
That's a whole other show of looking at, okay, what are you taking? If you look at it as an investment, listen, here's what I want to do. This is what I need to learn to do this so that you can make enough to service the debt you're going to run up. And they don't really look at it from a investment standpoint. like investing in yourself, but you've got to get an ROI on that. And I think I don't know if I would know to do that at 18, but your parents.
I mean, what other kind of mistake can an 18-year-old get? They may be able to get drunk or something, but
right.
To be able to take on $50,000 in debt before they get their first job or even know what they want to do. I mean, it's pretty crazy out there. So let me give some help in that area. The first thing, if they come out of college, is consolidate. They've got a whole bunch of different federal loans at different interest rates. Consolidate all into one at a lower interest rate and save you some money that way. A website to help you there is called consolidatecollege.com. And then a lot of people, Curtis, do not realize that they can refinance their student loan debt in the 2 to 3% interest rate area, much, much lower than they're being charged. So you would combine any private loans and any public federal loans into one in the 2 to 3% area. A place to help you there is called Credible, and their website is credible.com/money answers. They know it's me that way. You get $200 off your first payment as well.
Wow.
They've also got a phone number, 855-870-6005. And what they're going to do is give you about 10 different choices of lenders that have different programs at different interest rates, some of them fixed, some of them variable, credit unions, all kinds of different choices. So Credible doesn't lend itself. It's a platform where there are different choices for you and then you pick what's best for you. You combine your federal and your private loans into one loan, 2 to 3%. It doesn't make them instantly go away, but it's going to be a lot faster to pay them off than having, rates at 6 and 10 and 6 different loans all over the place. So
I saw somebody like 8-10%. I was analyzing their situation of because they had private loans,
right?
And it was incredible. They had a couple, government ones, and I was like, why is this payment so big? And I looked, what it was and what the pain was. So that's crazy. And so Jordan, you've got a book on this also.
I do. I came up with a book which I sent you called The Ultimate Guide to Student Loans, which I talk about how to save up front and invest up front before you get to college, because every dollar that you can invest or save is one you don't have to borrow when you get to school. And then I go through how to get the best student loans when you're applying in college and then how to pay them off as quickly as possible. So, yeah, I mean, this is the crisis of this generation because over 50% of the people graduating these days go back and live at home because they can't afford to service their student loans and have a car and rent an apartment and start a family and all the things that people in past generations could do. This generation, many of them cannot do that because of the huge burden of student loan debt.
Now, who would you say the book is for? If the parents to help the children?
Well, it would be for the parents, particularly in the early years, knows how to invest, the different 529 plans. I mean, if you can start early when the kid is young and really set up an automatic investment plan and have that money grow, it's really going to work for you. A lot of people just either don't save anything or save some minimal amount. It's scary, but if you had a newborn today, I think the estimates are it's going to be something like $200,000 a year in a public university 18 years from now.
Yep, I believe that.
That's
$200,000. Listen, you could take $200,000, just save that, and go buy yourself, buy a rental property every year. You wouldn't even need to go to college. But that's
so, a lot of people making that decision. They're saying, is this worth it to go into this level of debt to get education? Not even a fancy private school, but even public university, where their tuitions are going up pretty fast too. The costs are getting so high that people are starting to take a second look. But
you have to have a discerning way to look at this stuff to analyze that. So parents, I don't think you should automatically, drain down your retirement accounts or, because they have, college loans, college grants. They don't have retirement grants,
Exactly.
Right? So
and parents do that. Parents will take home equity loans. They'll take out loans against their 401ks or withdraw from their IRAs, and then it's nice to help the kids, but as you say, they nobody's going to fill that one back up again. Where in theory, the kids could pay the student loan debt off. And now the latest thing, Curtis, is that grandparents are being asked to help their grandchildren because the parents are completely maxed out, the kids are completely maxed out, and they still don't have enough to make these tuitions. So now the grandparents are being asked to take their home equity loans and their 401k loans to help out the grandkids. It's now a 3-generational problem here.
That is indentured servitude if I ever heard it. Let's shift gears for a second.
Sure.
I would make a hard. We can do a whole show on this because I think that's a big topic. But let's talk about and so this is for my business owners out here and getting advantageous financing for your business.
Yes.
I want to talk about that for a second.
So a lot of people have a really hard time getting loans from traditional banks these days. Since the financial crisis of 10 years ago and the Dodd-Frank law, banks have made it really, really hard. Banks want collateral. They want something they can seize. They want widgets, okay, if something goes wrong, okay? A lot of businesses today don't have widgets. They're virtual, or they're apps, or they're a video game, or there's no warehouse filled with stuff that a bank can seize. So as a result of that, they're not going to get a loan from a traditional bank. So there's a whole new class of alternative lenders who will make loans based on cash flow, not inventory, not assets, in effect. And there are these clearinghouses that will help you, as a small business owner, connect with them to be able to get decent kind of loans. My favorite one is called Corporate Lending Solutions, and their website is corporatelendingsolutions.com. Their phone number, 800-261-6478. And there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. There can be vendor financing, for example, or there can be payroll financing, or equipment leasing financing, or factoring. There's a bunch of different ways, depending on what your needs are. But the point is that small businesses can get loans that do not rely on the traditional ways that banks do it. And these guys have been doing this for a long, long time. And you may have a perfectly good business with good cash flow, but you just don't have the inventory of the stuff that they want to seize, and therefore you can't get a loan. So hopefully that'll help some of your small business folks get loans.
Okay. And so if let's say they're already piled up under business debts.
So there's a way to help them there, which is what I call debt prioritization. Now, what that means is you have several creditors for your business, and they're all screaming at you, and you tend to pay the one that screams the loudest. Okay?
Yes.
It's probably not the one you should be paying. So there's a place called Corporate Turnaround, and their website is helpwithpayables.com. They've also got a phone number, 800-411-1113. And they have a very sophisticated formula to prioritize all of your creditors based on what they call the leverage ratio. How much leverage do they have over your business? Now, your local electric utility could turn your lights off the next day. They got a lot of leverage on you, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Some lawyer that did a contract 3 years ago that you never came through with does not have a lot of leverage on you, okay? So they scientifically look at all of your creditors and have a formula on how much leverage each one has, and then they propose a payment plan based on the amount of leverage each one has. So the one that's got a lot of leverage may say, okay, you'll get 60 cents on the dollar in a year, and the one with low leverage maybe get 10 cents on the dollar in 2 years, or whatever it may be. And then you make one payment to them, they pay the creditors, and over time you can get out of debt. They say they save about 75% of the businesses that come to them with huge amounts of debts, because what happens is the small business owner, they're not even running their business, they're just deflecting creditors' calls and letters all the time.
Right.
And so this is a way of outsourcing and say, don't deal with me, go to the help with payables people, and they handle it all, and they can save your business. So a lot of people don't know something like that exists either.
Wow, you know what? We got through our list of stuff we wanted to share.
I did a lot of stuff. Now, I've actually created a separate landing page for your listeners, Curtis, that might be helpful to them, which is go.moneyanswers.com/practical wealth. And at that, I've given some of the resources we talked about, some links to them. And also, I do a monthly newsletter that they can sign up for free, which is constantly giving ideas and videos and links. And this is what I do all the time. I'm answering people's financial questions. And I'm also glad to take emails from them as well at my website, moneyanswers.com.
Folks, you got to get access to information, right? And so I always tell people your number one asset is you, and you have to invest in your mindset, your skill set, and your network. And so Jordan is now part of my network, but he has graciously extended, links to some great information. So what I highly suggest is that, and we're going to put the links in the show notes also, but listen to this stuff. And so we went through a bunch of things. So everybody's not going to have all of these issues, but there's probably 2 or 3 that if you could work through them and combine them, it will, because what happens is I was doing a talk last night, and I want to tell people is that, listen, you have to raise your ceiling of complexity. People are at a level of complexity and they're beating their head against the wall and they don't know these things exist. So as your knowledge expands, if you can raise that ceiling of solutions that you have available to you, as your knowledge goes up, your anxiety comes down. And so Jordan has provided us with a list of solutions that should help your anxiety come down because your knowledge has just gone up if you will take action.
It's all about action. I agree. I mean, just look at what we've done in our time together. We've got them earning 8% on their money.
Yes.
Got them paying their mortgage off in 5 years instead of 30 years. We've gotten big discounts for heroes, as we described them.
Mm-hmm.
We've saved the money on their mortgage where they're probably overpaying by getting it verified. We've helped them refinance their car loans to a much more affordable payment. We help them consolidate their credit card debt into a lower interest rate. We help them refinance their student loans to a much lower interest rate. And we've helped small businesses both get loans and if they have a lot of debt, deal with it. I mean, these are things that most people don't know exist as resources. And that's why I like to help people and help your followers with all these different ideas because knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, or applied knowledge. So do something, right? But that's the key. So I let me tell you, this is probably the most information-packed podcast we've done. So I'm totally excited, with a lot of good resources, and it's been fantastic. So, Jordan, you have any parting words of wisdoms for?
Well, I agree. Take action. Mm-hmm. I've handed your listeners gold and diamonds and platinum, and depending on what their situation is. Now they know it exists. Now they got to do it. And I've given them specific websites and phone numbers to take action. I've just handed them these things, but if they don't do anything with it, it's not going to help them. So I'm saying take action.
That's right. Go to websites. Some of things we'll be investigating. So, feel free to, ask me more detail on that stuff or get his newsletter. Ask me. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask him. But but implementation is everything. So with that, folks, I probably, before I go into another rift, we could be on the phone another hour and doesn't have time for that. But I'm so excited. And Jordan, I just want to thank you again for coming on to the Practical Wealth Show.
Well, I appreciate it very much. I hope we helped and made a real difference in a lot of your listeners' lives.
Yes, I guarantee you have. And so, guys, I thank you. Folks, go out there, be prosperous, take action, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. You guys have a great morning, noon, or night, depending on where you hear this. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.